Global Indian Network. Print, TV, events, podcasts. Find out more at globalindianseries.com.
Welcome back to the Global Indian Podcast, home to the greatest conversations and the official platform for open and liberal minds. Because yes, let's face it, we are everywhere. Now, as you know, every single week we plunge ourselves into the human experience behind our perceptions of identity, take a second look at the countries we now call home, and tackle the big conversations. Well, it has been a weird and wonderful month across the whole of the planet, whether it's submarines taking place, or if it's about refugee ships coming onto the coast of Greece. But there's been something that has been the undercurrent of taking place in a place called India, especially in an area called Manipur. Now, to help guide me through this whole notion of Indianness and what it looks like and what the uncovering story is, I'm joined by a dear guest, Jyotsna Mohan, who not only is a seasoned journalist, a content producer, but also somebody who is very well known within the field for taking up the stories that most people neglect. So without further ado, I'd like to say a massive thank you for our guest for joining us. Good morning, Jyotsna. But before then, a quick note from our dear sponsors. If you want to find out more about the Global Indian series, by the way, well, it couldn't be easier. Simply come to the website, which is www.globalindianseries.com. There you can listen to this podcast and the entire repertoire of discussions so far.
Hi, this is Dharmesh Shingala, co-founder of Novus. At Novus, we believe technology leads the way for a meaningful change. We are on a mission to change the way corporations, governments, and institutions interact with information. Same as the Global Indian podcast, help people transform for a better future. Find out more on how we are inspiring global change, either at the Global Indian Series website or Novus website to learn more about our innovative software solutions. From our family to yours, I hope you enjoy the show. Thank you.
My name is Chitra Stern, and I am a proud Global Indian Ambassador and CEO of Martignal Resorts and Martignal Residences. We pride ourselves on the journeys that define a community, and our developments bring people together. Did you know that over 70,000 people just like us call Portugal home? The Global Indian journey has brought people together in a meaningful way, and on behalf of all of us at Martignal, we want to thank you for joining us in these remarkable conversations. We look forward to seeing you here in Lisbon post-COVID.
Hi, my name is Divya and I'm co-founder of the Global Indian Podcast. Before you get to today's show, I've got a quick favour to ask. If you've been enjoying our conversations, I'd love if you could take just 1 minute to leave us a review on the platform that you're listening to us on and share our work to friends and family. It helps us out a lot. Word of mouth is the primary way that we grow. Thanks for your continued support.
Morning, Rajan, and thanks for having me on the show. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. So before we kick off, what's it like to be you? Let's kick it off from there. How do we get here?
Oh gosh, that's a long story, but it's like some people, they take a longer route to reach where they have to reach. I could have done this 20 years ago, to be honest. My family is, I'm a fourth generation journalist. And they are print journalists, all newspaper editors. I could have just I had intended to join them, do the whole thing, stick to writing, except that when I graduated from college, television was just starting off, and you're young, you want to earn more money. Television was offering loads more than print ever has, so I said, why ever not? And I got a job in a channel called Business India Television, run by the Business India magazine, which was a brilliant place to start your career. A channel that was way ahead of its time, fantastic, creative, everything right. So I think I just got sucked into it. And yeah, one thing led to another, and 20 years, and I was doing the same thing. I took a sabbatical when my kids were born. And while I took a sabbatical, I started writing. I went back to writing. I mean, actually, I'd written my first piece in a newspaper when I was just 17. So I took a really long time to get back to it. Like I said, the long route. And yes, so there I am, doing a bit of both now. I enjoy hosting because that's what I did for 20 years.
Yeah.
And I enjoy writing because I think it's in my blood.
There's a power within the media that we all know of. It's the ability to tell stories and most of the time to educate audiences. In your mind, has the media changed its tonality over the course of years? Is it more entertainment basis now, or is it real, genuine news stories that connect people?
Indian media is not genuine news stories anymore. There's just a handful of people who are doing the right thing. Lots of them have turned freelance or independent, and just trying to get the story out there. But mainstream media, as we knew it, as we know it now, is definitely not. It's not entertainment. It's very toxic. And if you go into any primetime debate, you're not going to hear half the stories that you think are happening. B, the kind of guests on the show are all catered to a particular mindset, and the panel will be screaming, the panel will be yelling, there is more noise, and if you tend to stand up and say I don't agree, you could practically be abused by the news anchor. It's happened. And no, so news media as we know it is long dead. I was fortunate to work in television when it was actually the golden age of journalism. We had talent everywhere you looked. We had phenomenal stories that were being broken. It was just a privilege to be in that newsroom. Today, no. My contemporaries and I, we would rather not be in that newsroom. We are so far away from it for the simple reason that it is catering news to only those who want to hear a particular, a particular
Narrative.
thought.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to hear what is uncomfortable anymore. And if you say something that is uncomfortable, it's either an international conspiracy or you are anti-national. There are just many ways to call it out for them.
Well, what is the most uncomfortable aspect within the media right now? And we're going to jump ourselves into some of the key stories that are covering inside India. But on your point of view, what is the most uncomfortable piece that is now coming through the Indian media channels?
I think it is this that they've decided to stick to not being journalists anymore. I mean, they're not journalists, right? It's propaganda most of the time, or it's a particular story that you are going to take out, but there are particular stories you will not take out. That does not define a journalist. A journalist would go out there and say, I'm going to give you both sides of the story. In Indian media, you seldom get this other side of the story anymore. And that is that's not journalism anymore. It's a body blow to media right now.
Absolutely.
Will it recover? I don't know. In the foreseeable future, I can't see it. Hopefully in a decade or so, maybe. But things change anyway, right?
You seem convinced with that one. It is
yes, I am.
I
actually am.
Yeah.
It is very dangerous because the narrative that is being built is then, Indians, they like their WhatsApp forwards. So from that narrative, it goes on to WhatsApp forwards. Nobody's really questioning what they're listening to or what they're being forwarded. And they just tend to blindly agree with what is being sold to them. And a lot of these include educated upper class Indians, which is really sad because you would expect them to at least say, okay, this doesn't quite sound all right. You're sending me a forward of a New York Times front page, entire front page that's dedicated, to India. But is it really true? Why, out of the blue, would New York Times dedicate an entire page to India? And no one's questioning. This is the level of how fake news is being propagated. Somebody's just going to make a false page and forward it.
To what avail? Who benefits from this?
It's pretty obvious, isn't it? Who benefits from it?
I must be having one of those moments.
It's like I said, it's polar. It's all very political. It's a political endgame. Right now,
it's more political than
yes. So the media is a political tool now.
Run me through
run
me through some of the big stories, because you've done some incredible coverage of what's taking place in Manipur, as well as wrestlers debacle in India. For most of the people around the world, especially our audiences, they don't know enough, and there hasn't actually been any coverage on the Manipur side. in the UK, in the US, or in many of the international marketplaces. Now, just to break down the figures, from the last thing that I've seen, over 85,000 people have been made homeless. 10,000 homes have been burnt down. You've got shootings taking place in the streets, and the silence from the international community is deafening. Now, what is taking place over there?
It is so confusing at this point. But yes, news is not filtering out. It's actually kind of being stonewalled within the area. And so what really happened is there's a majority community called the Metis, which is predominantly Hindus. There is the tribals, which are the Kukis and the Nagas, more or less made up of Christians. And under the scheduled tribe category, that there are proposals to make the Metis, the majorities, also come under the scheduled tribe category, which the tribals are protesting against, because they say that if majorities who already got the better access, in a sense, to government jobs, to government roles, to education, come and take part of our reservation, then what are we going to get? And this is where the protests started, having now escalated into, in a sense, a lot of people have been forced to leave their homes. I keep getting videos and, photos of homes being burned, people having to leave their homes with just their clothes on. And the government, and there are allegations that the government has just let this happen. The government has not worked in a timely manner to stop the violence. What we've also seen, though, that the Home Minister took about 3 weeks to visit Manipur after the violence broke out. The internet has been down for the last 50 days. In fact, last night it was extended for another 5 days. So it keeps getting extended sporadically, but there is no internet in the state. Very hard to get in touch with journalists or those reporting on the ground, because they don't have access. So, you wait for them to get in touch with you, instead of the other way around. And yes, an all-party meeting was convened yesterday or day before, 2 days ago. And this is again after 50 days of the violence having broken out. So things are in a bad situation there. Yet, no, it's not. I think it's a double whammy for the fact that, in India, we don't really cover Northeast the way we cover other states in the country. The only time we cover Northeast is when athletes from the region win medals, because a lot of our boxers come from the Northeast, and they're all wrestlers and boxers. They come from the Northeast, so they're all Olympic winners, which is why when they win, we go all out. And secondly, so our coverage of the area as it is has been minimal. And secondly, with the internet that has been closed down, and nobody quite knows really what is going on at this point. But yes, there has been an attempt to not let information filter out as much as it should have been.
How much of that is down to the Indian audiences requesting information, or is it just on the basis of they can't access it, so out of mind, out of sight? Because I'm guessing that there would be forwards, that there would be information at least circulating. Do people care enough?
No, they don't. So that's an issue as well, right? I mean, like I said, so I remember this interview I had done after the Olympics with our silver medalist, Mirabai Chanu, the wrestler. And this was a question I had put to her as well. How do you feel? You won a medal now, you're all over and the media is running after you. But the rest of the year, they don't really care, do they? And she said exactly the same thing. She said, yeah, I mean, we don't get the attention that we deserve. And I got trolled for that because, how dare you ask a question? She's an Indian. We respect her. But it's not true. It's really not true. So my point is that, anything that currently shows us in a poor light, it could be, it is, and let it be factual, but, as long as it shows us in a good light, all is well. But anything factual, anything that is truthful, anything that is real, but that shows us in a poor image, in a poor light, will be questioned. We will be trolled for it. We're not looking to find solutions. were just looking to sit and, abuse. And like I said, it's a very toxic environment, and Indian Twitter is an awful place to be.
Talking about abuse, other big story that's kicked off that you've done incredible coverage on is having a look at the wrestlers issue. Again, could you break that down for the audience? What has taken place in India?
So some of India's topmost wrestlers have been, in January, they came out to protest, saying that the Wrestling Federation of India, the chief of the Wrestling Federation of India, who belongs to the ruling BJP party, Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh, has been sexually abusing a number of them. They went out and protest publicly in the capital, and until they were accompanied by some of the male wrestlers who were also Olympic winners, and to say that we want him changed, we want him sacked, and we want an investigation. At that point, the sports minister promised them action, and a committee was set up. In India, we love setting up committees, and the wrestlers protested, about the committee as well, because they said that some of those members are, not. I mean, we don't agree with the composition of the committee. So they kind of added one token wrestler into that, who's a politician though. So anyway, so in January, they called off the protest after the government said that, we're going to look into it. Nothing really happened. They waited, and they came back onto the streets again. And this time they said, we're not going to go back till, we see action, till the man is, he's asked to quit. Now, a little bit background into the politician. He's a politician. He's a 6-time member of parliament, 5-time member of parliament from the ruling BJP. And he has several cases against him, including one of murder, where he has publicly acknowledged in a television, in a media interview, not a television interview, online interview, that he has murdered. Many said of ek aadmi ko mara hai, ek aadmi ko, apni zindagi mein. I have only killed one man in my life. He has publicly acknowledged it. This is the man that has been protected. This is the man against whom these women have been speaking. But the very fact that, these women who are Olympic winners, they won medals in the World Championships, were trolled again for the same fact that how dare you question anybody from the government? How dare you question anybody? You are wrong. Your sexual allegations are wrong. Amongst those who had filed, it took actually an intervention by the Supreme Court to firstly file an FIR, a first information report, against the politician, because nothing was being done by the government. Our Women and Child Development Minister does not speak on matters of women. She has seldom or rarely, or if at all, spoken about issues that concern the women in the country. She is, if you will look at her record, she has been more involved with taking on Rahul Gandhi for most of the tenure than she has about anything to do with women abuse, or the fact that we are one of the most dangerous countries for women in the country, in the world. And so she did not speak. Women ministers did not speak. These women went protested. There was a police crackdown on them. They were actually even sent to jail. They were detained, not sent to jail. They were detained for a few hours. This is what happens when you win medals for the country, right? Nothing was done to the man. He kept hanging around, saying, I'm going to go ahead and win elections, and I'm going to do my campaigning. Elections are coming. He is a very prominent member of the party in terms of, winning the seat in Uttar Pradesh. So nothing much has been done to him. Among those who filed a case against him was a minor. And under India's laws, POCSO laws, if you file a case under a POCSO Act, a person should be arrested immediately. He was not arrested. And, there's got to be something about the timing. As the Prime Minister was leaving for the US, this girl, the minor girl, has withdrawn her case. We all know why it has been done. It is, so that the man is not arrested under POCSO. And now the girls, they've withdrawn their protest for now because, they still have to work, and they've got the Asian Games coming in September. But they're still fighting the case. They're fighting the case in court. It's a long battle, Why would anybody take up sport in the country?
India means something to all these sporting members, whether they're sitting in Manipur or they're the wrestlers coming through there. Evidently, if you have a look at the way that they've been treated, can we safely say that they mean anything to India?
Only when the going is good.
What's your biggest frustration, Jyotsna? Because the work that you do, again, it's absolutely incredible because you take these deep dives in and you do something that many of the journalists, not that they don't bother, but I don't think they have the even empathy to go into that
Oh no, they
mindset to
don't.
say,
If you go to mainstream media, you will see that a lot of these primetime anchors, they have not spoken a word for these women, not
no.
a word. I mean, I would say at least if you're a woman anchor, if you're a woman journalist, please have some empathy. But it's sorely missing because people have taken sides in that narrative, and it doesn't look okay to speak up. Uh, but yeah, my frustration is that it's twofold actually. When it comes to women and sexual abuse, there have been so many instances, in the last few years, and no action has been taken. The government is the, the frustration is the government remains silent. There's outrage. You can just speak a word. Your minister, she's a lady. She could have spoken something to these people. These are people who have, you know, sacrificed so much to get you glory. When they win and when they're on the podium and they come back with these medals, you surround them. They're surrounded by all the politicians and the leaders and the ministers, and who want to be part of that limelight. What happened now? Are they so easily disposable? But they may win a medal again. What are you going to do then? Are you going to be, are you going to turn around and come back again? The same with the sports minister. I mean, I speak to a lot of athletes, and their frustration remains the same. It is the fact that in Indian politics, in Indian sports, politicians are a large chunk of Indian sports. A majority of the federations, sports federations, everything from wrestling to cricket to judo, it's run by politicians who have absolutely no clue of how Indian sport is run. And it's big bun. It's twofold for them. There's a lot of money to be made, to be had, and secondly, it's also a power game. And, for decades, they sit on Football Association, 20 years, one politician is sitting at the head. But what are you really doing about making the sport safe for the women? Or sport safe for anybody in the country? I mean, we're not a sporting culture. The Prime Minister recently spoke about the sporting culture. This was just, I think, a week or two before the wrestlers, went all out and saying, why is that no one speaking for us? But how are you going to encourage a sporting culture in a country where, firstly, we've always given too much emphasis to education? And, things are trying to change now. A lot of parents are encouraging their children to come out and take to sports. And the bottom line is that a majority of those who pick up sports, the women in our country, are from the rural landscape. They need the kind of help that, they don't get the help that somebody who's playing golf from a better background is. I mean, I know, say somebody like Aditi, who's the upcoming golfer, she has her mother traveling with her. Or, there's this girl, Anahat, one of the upcoming squash girls, she has her mother traveling with her, Tani travels with her. But these girls who come from the rural landscape of Haryana or Punjab or wherever, they don't have, they can't afford to have anybody traveling with them. So where are the safety networks for them? They're not there. And all these athletes, are frustrated with the lack of athlete representation in Indian sport, because only they can tell you what is needed, what is not.
Because
And to me, that's a big frustration. Yes, they know. They know the sport. What's
your fear, your biggest fear? Because when I listen to you speak, when I see the work that you do, you're obviously there's a social issue that you're constantly tapping into. But you've kind of hinted along this path so far in the podcast that you feel that there's a very dark side coming through quite quickly. What's your biggest fear when you look at the media landscape, when you look at where India is at this moment in time?
I don't think it's the fear. I think it's it's the acceptance that it is where it is today. That a lot of people outside don't really know what is going on in the country, and It's very unfortunate because news isn't really filtering out the way it should be because of, it's been managed. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it's an acceptance. It is what it is. Like I said, media is very different from what a media organization is. It's more like, they're more like cheerleaders today. Uh, and that's not the job of media. The job of media is to question.
Yeah.
And, every time I get the other day somebody wrote to me and he was like, why do you always bring out negative news? I said, no, I bring out inspirational stories, but I also bring out negative news because it's my job to bring out both sides of the story. And if I don't bring out that story, are you going to live in your la la land forever? No. You've got to speak up, right? I mean, there is so much that's happening outside in our country. Uh, it's, I mean, look at the American media, and then look at the Indian media. We are so far removed. Unpopular opinion, even the Pakistani media is more daring than our media. It really is. And but like I said, there are a handful of people who are still doing what they want to do, that they're doing the right thing. There are fact checkers who are trying to,
Yeah.
keep fact checking the news that comes out. There are a lot of people who are sticking to what they believe in, sticking to what they've been taught, what we've been taught, right? To bring out both sides of the story. And it's it's a bottomless ocean right out there. So I also say that the challenge is also for the reader, for the viewer, now to sift and understand what is being what is the truth, what is right, and what they're being fed with. And that's a choice now they have to make. I mean, people like me, we can only show you the mirror. It's the same with my book. When I wrote the book, a lot of people said, but is it parental advice? Have you given advice? I said, no. Why would I give advice? I mean, I can show you the mirror. Where you take it from there is up to you.
Absolutely. I think the poignant words. Jyotsna, it's been an absolute privilege to have you on. I think this is the first of many more conversations to come through. If people
Thank
want
you,
to find out
Rajan.
more about your work, where can they go to?
Okay, so yes, I am. I'm majorly just on social media and YouTube. I have a YouTube channel, Jyotsna Mohan, where we release a new episode every Thursday. Well, this Thursday is looking to be an exciting one. We are looking to tell you more about Manipur, and also some instances of why where the administration has remained silent. It's not just been Manipur, it was during the second wave of COVID, it's been the wrestlers, it's been the farmers' law. So we're just looking at, five events where silence hasn't worked out really well. But yes, every Thursday we drop a new episode on YouTube, Jyotsna Mohan. A lot of them are inspirational stories. Last week we spoke to one of India's best known actually, mountain climbers, Rajan. She went missing on Mount Annapurna in Nepal. She's the only Indian climber to have climbed 8,000 peaks in 1 year. She went missing in April or May, and for 24 hours was declared dead. She was found alive, airlifted. And through your audience, really, I would request, because she has a lot of bills to pay in Nepal because she was rescued, evacuated. B, she was hospitalized. She's fine now. She's ready to go back. But these are the kind of stories that we also cover. She is the daughter of a bus driver who has become India's primary mountain climber, but she has bills to pay. She supports her family because her father is no longer driving that bus. She has loads and loads of bills to pay in Nepal, and she needs sponsorship. So, through your medium, Rajan, I'd really request if people want to get in touch. She does a lot of crowdfunding on her own. What she needs is consistent sponsorship. We're looking, I've spoken with a few Olympians who are looking through their funds to pay off these bills, but what she needs actually is consistent sponsorship. So, she doesn't really have to think about anything, because she supports the family by doing yoga classes and stuff like that when she is not climbing. So, these are the kind of stories that we cover. And yes, otherwise I do host a show called Table Talk with Joe on Instagram as well. That is about twice a week. My handle is Jyotsna Mohan _. And yes, otherwise I write a column for Gulf News, and And I'm writing a book which will come out next year. So hopefully people can get hold of that.
Done. And what we'll do, we'll put all the links for your work on the bio as well. Jyotsna, it's been a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you, Rajan. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Global Indian Network. Print, TV, events, podcasts. Find out more at globalindianseries.com.